Oh, yeah. Got it. Let me start again. Wow, look at that, man. We've got like 3 people already on time, fresh in the place. So greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Diamond Round Table. This is the 7th episode or edition, or I don't know what we want to call it, module, or whatever we want to call it, Atiba. But this is the 7th time that we're doing this. And this is the brainchild of our brother here, Atiba, who all of you will know runs a number of platforms, TNT Empire, Destination, Caribbean Global Destinations, etc., etc. So he obviously can talk more about what he does. But this is an opportunity to bring everyone together, to share ideas, to share learning, and to try and create, wealth for ourselves, wealth for our communities, generational wealth, to build structures, organizations, whatever positive may come out of it. So today, the topic, we always have a topic which Atiba chooses, because he's got a program, and he's got an objective, and he's got a plan. So he will be sharing those things as we go through this. But basically today we're going to be talking about how do we empower like our communities through cultural tourism. So I think for me, the conversation maybe starts off by talking about this whole notion of what cultural tourism is and what it isn't. And so, my brother Atiba, why did you choose this topic in particular?
Well, what's it called? Because I was speaking to somebody the other day recently, and name's Karen, and when we were speaking, it was helping me to sort of reshape what we got going on here, and obviously just narrowing down every single all of the concepts and what we've put together, and to just break it down into just a nicer piece of just
so how we can distilling all the information from all of the sessions or episodes, however we want to call it, into like almost one document, one space.
Basically, because when I looked at all the aspects of tourism that we could have taken, we could have taken safari tourism, we could have looked at the word sustainable tourism, we could have looked at so many sort of aspects of tourism. But if we're just using the word cultural,
we've already touched on yes, but we've already also touched on sustainable tourism anyway. So we're over that. So this is like another strand now.
Yeah, but sustainable and cultural is basically the same thing, but it's just using the word cultural is like it's a word that more people are used to.
Cultural.
I don't know what's. Have you frozen?
Cultural is broader. Sustainable, much more about practices. Horizon. Hello.
Yeah, I'm thinking someone's frozen here. Is it me?
You did slow down. San, Lydia, Casey, greetings, welcome. Did we freeze? Could you hear us? Did that all break down? Maybe somebody want to just give us a thumbs up just to let us know that you can hear us okay and we're not frozen.
No, I'm
It's fine now. Okay, so yeah, I think you were right, brother. I think there was a problem. Yeah, so I was just saying that cultural tourism, from what I understand, is slightly wider than sustainable tourism, because cultural tourism encompasses sustainable tourism as well, but it's much wider. There's also something very much about the respect of the culture and identity of the people whose place you're stepping foot into. The sustainable thing is much more about the ecology and the environment, but the cultural is also, you respect the people's spiritual practices, you respect their cultural practices, that you respect their, their dress code, all of that sort of thing as well. And you go there to learn about people. You're not going to do. I don't know if the people on this call have ever been to Spain and ever seen the horror of the English tourist in Spain, but you know, cultural tourism is the opposite. It is not what the English do in Spain, where they just turn up and they just batter themselves in suntan lotion and lie on a beach.
Isis,
Thing.
Isis.
I mean, horrible. And then they eat chips.
Isis.
Yes.
You may want to move your phone away from the computer or something, because you're freezing here and there. I don't know.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can only think it's my Wi-Fi connection.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, but maybe I just need to hand over. So basically, cultural tourism is the opposite to what English people do when they go abroad, and they just eat fish and chips and beans and speak English and don't respect other people's cultures and countries. So maybe we should see if anybody would like to maybe make a contribution. What do you think cultural tourism is? Why is it important? You heard what Atiba said about it. You've heard what I've said about it. I'm sorry that I've been freezing.
No, you're good. One thing I would say in regards to cultural tourism as opposed to sustainable tourism, one thing I would say about it is that because we're using the word cultural as opposed to sustainable, even like this week I've been getting in contact with I've been contacting councillors who deal with culture in the different boroughs and stuff. And I've been inviting them to come on this call and stuff like that. Obviously, none of them have currently accepted what I've said to them, but moving forward,
you keep knocking on those doors.
No, of course, but when we're using words like culture now, moving forward, that's where we're going to be able to sort of say, right, we're dealing with things of a cultural sort of thing, and there's more doors that can open from that, basically.
I hear you, definitely. It's greetings, Trini Jam, Chris. Greetings, Lana. Ayana. Fevrier Jacobs. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I probably pronounced it all incorrectly. So yes, cultural tourism. Well, perhaps maybe we if we're all clear, if we know what cultural tourism is, what are the main cultural attractions across the Caribbean that people have been to, visited, want to visit, or just know about? What are some of the things that we have that are elements of, that's like an obvious one, maybe something a bit more that people don't know about? Would anybody like to chip in, or maybe it's maybe you've got an idea or something?
Obviously in Trinidad you have Maracas. I'm sure that can be looked at as something of cultural tourism. St. Lucia, you have the pitons. And obviously, hopefully, there's more people from other Caribbean islands here.
I was thinking more of some of the, because I was thinking more about like some of the cultural activities that happen. Like, so you've got the jazz festival in St. Lucia. There must be, there's a John Canoe festival in the Bahamas. So I don't know if there's anyone who's been to any cultural events back home in any of the Caribbean islands, would like to recommend one, or talk about one, or share some information about something cultural that could be something that could be built into a tourist package that we empower our communities with. Silence. I don't want to start calling names. I'm always trying to avoid this, but is there anyone who would like to share some information about the topic tonight? about cultural tourism. What does it mean to you? Maybe I'll take it right back, because you've heard what we said. Oh, somebody just left. So,
So
scared her off.
So Chris just messaged me and let me know that he's doing currently doing something, but he's gonna come on the camera soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know who Mandy is. Hi Mandy.
Sorry, you were just freezing as well.
Was I freezing? Okay, so I said Chris just messaged me, and he said that he's just currently doing something and he's gonna come on to the camera soon.
Oh,
So,
okay, fine, good.
I'm sure we'll get some good insight from him. Welcome, Mandy. I don't know who you are currently. What's it called? Casey says she would love to visit Trinidad Carnival, and it brings a lot of tourists as it's a part of culture.
It is. And is there any other cultural events or activities in the Caribbean that you'd like to visit, Casey, or you maybe visited, or you know about, that maybe people should know about? You can put it in the chat. We're quite happy for you to chat that way as well, obviously. Yeah. And San, what's happening? Oh, yep, Ayana's back. Okay, that's good. I didn't make her leave by calling out people's names. I thought I scared you away, Ayana.
Ayana, me knowing Ayana, I definitely don't think she's someone that's going to get scared that easily.
Okay, so we've got please contribute.
Sorry about the connection tonight, guys. It's not really the best this evening. And hello, Asia.
Actually, you're absolutely right. We have to apologize for the connection. In fact, all the other sessions that we've had so far, the connection's been great. This is the first time we've had all this freezing and the sound quality going strange, but apologies. Yeah. Greetings as well, Asia. Greetings. So anyone here, there's now 9 of us on this call. Atiba's explained what he defines as cultural tourism. Maybe you want to mention that again very quickly for those who've joined afterwards, why, what you mean by cultural tourism in terms, because we're talking about empowering our communities through cultural tourism.
Yeah, so like I was saying, guys, everybody, welcome all who's just come on. Like I was saying, we could have went down the route of sustainable tourism, we could have went down the route of safari tourism and things of that type of nature. But the reason why we're choosing cultural tourism is because the reason why we're choosing cultural tourism is simply the fact of using culture, we can target a larger base of individuals from different councils and different sort of organizations, and we can use that to sort of broaden our horizons. And basically, so even this whole week, I've been getting in contact with councillors around London who deal with culture, and obviously inviting them onto this meeting and seeing how we can move forward and stuff like that. So that's why I've chosen culture to move forward with, basically.
Great, thank you so much. So I must have one brave person here who would like to make a comment or share some ideas about cultural tourism. Casey's already shared that she would like to go to Trinidad Carnival, and I can highly recommend it. Of course, it's a beautiful example of culture from the Caribbean. There are so many Caribbean islands. I don't know how many Caribbean islands. In fact, actually, maybe Atiba, you can give somebody a prize if they can put in the chat if they know exactly how many Caribbean islands there are.
Wait, listen. Go on, listen.
No, but they have to do it now. They can't go off and Google it, so they have to just do it now. Miss Crazy Sexy Cool. Yeah, now that is a great name. Greetings, sis. With a name like that, you must want to make a comment. Miss Crazy Sexy Cool. Culture, come on, you must want to say something about culture. Yes. Oh yes, beautiful sister.
Peace. Hello, everybody. Greetings.
Greetings.
So hi, Miss Crazy 60 Cool, also known as Asia. But as far as culture tourism, I highly agree that it's a great thing to use to get people into an island. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what's going on now. There is a right now it's a thing going on with Chance the Rapper, with him rap of how he's dancing in Carnival for Jamaica Carnival. I would say it's a culture. A lot of people don't only think of Jamaica as like the nice water and the food, and people are scared to go to Kingston. But now it's getting attention and traction. People go to Kingston because of Carnival. Even though Chance the Rapper, he's not from there, but because he's there for Carnival, people will now know, oh, that Jamaica has Carnival. A lot of people don't know that. They don't know it at all. But because of that little snippet of a 30-second video of him at Carnival, people are now getting to know or get introduced to Jamaica in a different site. If that makes
That's a
sense.
really
So
good
I
point.
definitely.
It's a really good point. I mean, are there any other places in Jamaica that, I mean, I don't know if that's where your heritage is from, or somewhere that you enjoy visiting, but are there other sites in Jamaica that are really appropriate to be called like cultural tourism sites that maybe people don't know about?
I can't say the name, don't quote me on the name, but it was a countryside. Maybe Portmore, possibly. I might be saying it wrong, so don't quote me. But where it was very country, a lot of tourism, just green waters, where you go and walk along the street to get your local food, and festival, and people are cooking on the crates, and it was not touched, right? But I only went there because of Carnival. That's how I got to Jamaica. So I was introduced to more of it and dove more deep into it while I was there. So what I would like to do or tell people is that when it comes to an island because of something, stay a little longer when the excitement is gone, so you can see and explore the actual local activities and indulge in actual culture. Because this is why you're there, but go deeper into the people who are living there and what else they do under everyday life. So for me, I think it was Portmore, but Portmore or Portland, I'm not sure. But it's a countryside and it's beautiful and it's calm and it's very slow and natural life, and no one cares about wearing heels or looking nice. You're just out there just with your natural hair and no makeup and just diving into it. So I think that for sure.
Sounds glorious. Absolutely glorious.
It's beautiful.
You're absolutely right. Go off the beaten track. Don't just stick to the tourist path. Try different things. Be adventurous. And obviously, if we want to know more about our people in the Caribbean, we can't just go for a big festival or something. You need to actually go and see how people live. Yes. So greetings, people. Yes, sis, come back. Yes.
I was gonna say the festival is a good way to get people there, because that's to get their attention. But a lot of people will literally stay once they meet people there to stay longer. For instance, I went to Ghana for Afrochella. I never thought to Ghana or Africa, but because the festival, it got me there, and I actually stayed longer because I had so much fun and I felt so loved and I felt protected and not like I was being hunted because everyone there looked like me. I wouldn't have known any of that without this festival. I wouldn't have known how loving they are, or that it's not just what you see on TV with the poor people and the skinny kids and children begging. It's more than that. It's a lot of culture there, and that's where that's where we're from originally. But I got there because of a festival. So
now what you just mentioned there, Afrochella is a really good example of cultural tourism. The Ghanaians have been very clever in the way that they've pulled that together, and they've really reached out now to a particular demographic who are the diaspora, Africans like us, like you said, cis people like of African heritage, born in the Caribbean, born in North America, born in Europe, and like really encouraging us to come back to West Africa. And so there's this kind of return thing. And then the music and the culture. So yeah, that's a really good example. Have we got any, maybe some other examples or stuff like that that Sister Asia has mentioned in the Caribbean? Mandy, I'm just going to read your message. Yes, so cultural tourism starts in the diaspora. That's a really good point, yes. So would you perhaps, yes, Sister, you've taken off your mic. Would you like to perhaps elaborate on that?
Yes, it's taking too long to type, so I'll definitely elaborate. Good evening, everyone.
Greetings, welcome.
Interesting conversation. Thank you for sending the link through, Ayana. I think the diaspora is in a really good place to celebrate what is ours, to be able to share that with the world, and to be able to bring the nuggets of what it is to be from the Caribbean, from wherever you are, to a world stage. I think that the challenge we are having is that the diaspora don't know about home enough to be able to celebrate it in the way that would entice more people to come. I think if more is done to teach, to expose the diaspora to home, then they can become those influential conduits through which the communities at home could benefit from cultural tourism. Very much as the last contribution made outlined, if you feel it, if you understand it, if you get to be a part of it, then you are in a place to share what it is from an authentic point of view. And I think that's what's lacking in a lot of the tourism programs from across the Caribbean, is that some of the persons we are hoping are sharing the ideas have not for themselves experienced the ideas. And they don't have that lived experience. Their grandparents might have had it. Their parents might have had it. They may have gone home when they were young. I know so many people who have never been to their homelands. They see it on TV, they hear about it, but they haven't quite experienced it. They still identify as being from the Caribbean and being of that heritage and celebrate it. But how authentic are their actual experiences? How deeply rooted is it so that they can then share it with others on a real authentic level? And I don't think enough funding is being put towards celebrating truly Caribbean here in the UK so that it can then be filtered through back home.
That's some really good points, yes. And of course, there's a natural process that does happen, which is that when people migrate and they come from one place and then their children are born in another place and then their grandchildren and now obviously great-grandchildren, you know, how many generations on, those later generations aren't obviously as authentic, if that's the word you want to use, as the original first generation, because they weren't, you know, you can't have something that you never had. You weren't born in the Caribbean, you weren't born there. If you didn't grow up there, you didn't grow up there. And if you grew up half your life in the Caribbean and half your life here, or you know, it's so, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a big difference between somebody from the Caribbean who's born there and somebody who's born here in terms of their knowledge of back home, as it were. But of course, we're all willing to learn. And this is part of the journey. I think, you know, cultural tourism, there's a very big element of it that involves learning. Yes, Mandy, would you like to, oh, you put your thumb up, yes. So the learning is a big part of what cultural tourism tries to kind of capture as well. So we're going to learn about people. So exactly as you said, sis, somebody who's maybe their grandparents were born here, but they identify as Caribbean because they're born here, growing up in a Caribbean environment. They go back to the Caribbean and they're actually going to learn as well. You wanted to make a contribution?
Yes, I was just agreeing with your point there. And I really do embrace the idea of culture being fluid and changing with the times and being influenced by what is now. But how can we influence change or, if we don't know what it is? So making that bridge and being deliberate and intentional about it, I think is what is the heart of what I'm about. I think there is so much scope for the Caribbean and other places to benefit from this type of tourism. And I think the time is now. I think people are more open to going off and finding out about themselves and where they're from, given the last couple of years and the misery we've been through.
Yes.
And it's an area that I don't know if there's enough insight into in order to make it a viable source of or viable avenue for organizations to go down. But fantastic conversations tonight.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you again. So, I mean, I'm really keen to hear some examples of the sorts of things that could be included in a cultural tourism package. We've given some examples, and Sister Aisha, Sister Asia, and Mandy have both chipped in, as has KC. And I was thinking about some examples because obviously when Atiba came up with this theme, and one of the things that came up when I was looking at some different things that could, that could be a possible example, was boat building in Carriacou. Now, I don't know, anybody who's from Grenada will know Carriacou. I've not been there, but I know quite a few people from there and people who've been there, and obviously a lot of Grenadians, because we Trinis and Grenadians are all related. But Carriacou apparently is a very beautiful island, and they have a particular tradition of boat building. And I believe the tradition can also be connected back to the continent, back to Africa. So I've certainly seen the boats coming in Senegal and in the Gambia when I've been in those countries and seen the particular styles of boats and the way they do that. So that was an example of a cultural activity. So I'd love to hear if some people have some ideas of things that maybe, that could be something. You build a package, and one of the islands that you visit is Carriacou, and you take people to spend a day or half a day with men building boats, or people building boats, or with the fishermen, watching how they I don't know, fish for a particular type of thing, lobsters or something. I don't know. I'm just talking now. Sissy,
I'd like to add on to that. Yes, another thing would be how I think when I went to Belize, it was called hook and bait. So where you take people out to actually catch the fish, catch their conch, and you bring it back and cook it. So you see how people actually go out and catch the fish and catch their food, and actually go back home or wherever you cook it. That would be an amazing way to bring them in, because a lot of people don't know how to steam fish to make festivals or any of those things, because now used to fast food in most areas. So I think that'd be great to know how to go back to actually catch your food and cook it a traditional way.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I know Atiba's very keen on the culinary side of things. He's mentioned a few ideas, haven't you, Atiba, around food?
Yeah, bringing Trinidad food to the UK, all of that. But I definitely like what you guys are both saying, man. That's beautiful, man. I love it.
Yeah. So catch your own conch and cook it. Or is it conch you're talking about, isn't it? Yeah. So yes, anyone else like to chip in and maybe give an example of something? Mandy, you've taken off your sister, you've taken off your mic.
Yeah. St. Lucia has, thank you. St. Lucia has several things I can think of off the top of my head, including experiencing the making of chocolates. We have quite a few cocoa plantations at home. I don't know if you know that the St. Lucia Hotel Chocolat, their chocolates, their cocoa comes from St. Lucia plantation, the Rabot plantation in St. Lucia, and there are many chocolates.
No. Thank you for sharing that. I did not know it came from St. Lucia. Wonderful.
The chocolates from St. Lucia. And
now you see, again,
even
sorry to stop you there, but that is another brilliant example of how you're promoting learning, you're sharing information, because now I didn't know that. I had no idea Hotel Chocolat's chocolate came from St. Lucia. And I think many people don't. I've always made this point, which I find really cute. Well, I understand why, but it's kind of, if you think about it, it's really ridiculous. You see things like Swiss chocolate, Belgium chocolate, Italian chocolate, and you're like, well, chocolate doesn't grow in any of these countries. It grows in the Caribbean, it grows in Côte d'Ivoire, it grows in Ghana. You don't have chocolate growing in these places. So again, that's a wonderful point. Sorry, carry on, but I had to big that point up.
No problem at all. I think it's about finding out where things come from, like the actual base ingredients, because cocoa, without the cocoa bean, which grows on a tree, in a pod, there would be no chocolate. So that history and learning and agriculture ties in really nicely there. I'm sure Ayana can come up with a few more. I know that there are different distilleries across St. Lucia. There are artisan ones that do different types of rum. There's actually a distillery in Scotland run by Island Slice. So Sylvester Herman is a St. Lucian who runs a rum factory in Scotland, and he's taken his knowledge and his family's knowledge of distilling rum. And so if you can look that up, it's called Island Slice.
Right.
And he's taken that up there. So he does tours of the factory for persons who are interested. And I've been up there a couple of times.
In Scotland?
So it may not be happening in Scotland, in Glasgow, in Scotland, Dumbarton.
Wow.
So it may not be something happening in St. Lucia, but after you've been to the distillery and you hear his story, his roots coming from the south of St. Lucia, then that is something then I want to go and see where he's from. And he's developing a whole sort of portfolio around that, homes and stuff that people can eventually come and stay down when he gets that off the ground. So that's something in the pipelines.
Well, that's wonderful. And also, I mean, it makes me think that, I mean, obviously the Caribbean Global Destinations is focusing on the Caribbean, but also there's an element here where, from what you're saying, sister, you know, as we know, there's a lot of things happening around kind of landmarks and tourism and history of the African history. So there could be something at some point, something around, specifically around Caribbean people who are doing particular things, because this man sounds wonderful. He's got a distillery. And I found out there's a very famous Trinidadian man who owns a tailor in Savile Row. And, you know, there's so many of our people that...
But Isis, the same Trinidadian man that you just was mentioning, he actually tuned in last week, but he came in on at the end.
Oh, okay. All right, yes. So yes, there you go. Sorry. Yes, that's and did you have some other points as well, sister Mandy?
Yeah, I'm gonna pop up in just my last points. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Just to say that in terms of the things that are happening at home, more of the carnival and jazz and music festivals are happening. And I know you mentioned that as I came in, where music is being used as a catalyst to drive tourism. Well, not drive tourism, it's a celebration of who we are. And the tourists are coming, thank you, we'll take their dollars. We would like that. There's something about every aspect of us being marketable that we are tapping into as countries. But there also needs to be an element of how we preserving it to ensure that we don't lose some of those core elements. So just making that point that I love the idea of celebrating who we are and inviting people in to celebrate through the different festivals, but also just something about heritage, and maybe it's for a different topic. How do we ensure that we preserve that heritage for those who are not quite here yet, as some sort of legacy? Just thinking about when people moving on, how do we preserve and how can we actually have museums? I know St. Vincent, I can't remember the actual name of it. There's a group up here of Vincentians who have an online museum, and if I can find the link, I will try and post that.
Oh, that would be
where they are
wonderful,
celebrating, they're celebrating something to do with the botanical gardens in St. Vincent and the plants that were taken during the time of slavery and being brought here to the UK. So that's their heritage that has been taken across the waters, and it's through investigating and research that, you know, somebody from Winchester University was able to find out about that. And they've started an online museum connected with that. So there's something there about our heritage and our culture being transitional that can also be celebrated. So does it physically have to be in the Caribbean, or is it something that can be in both sides of the waters, so to speak?
Well, I suppose there's also, I mean, you know, coming back to what you're saying about museums, and that's a really important point. How do we preserve, like you said, you know, in archives, museums, libraries, our heritage and our history? And also, how do we memorialize things through statues and plaques and monuments and all that sort of thing? And those are all part of the cultural heritage, because obviously the more statues we have to our people who have contributed to our society, then you've got like a heritage trail, you know, for in terms of tourism. The more museums you have, then again, you've got more things for cultural tourism as well. So yes, absolutely wonderful point, sister. Really, really good. Thank you so much for your contributions. Is there anyone else who, they've got quite a few people here. We're like already, you know, we've only got like about 24 minutes left of this conversation. So I'd love to hear from some people. Come on, be brave and take the step. Take off your mic and say something. Otherwise, I'm going to throw it back to Atiba again.
Oh, boy.
We've had some great contributions with some people who haven't contributed, though, and I know they have things to say. I'm sure everyone here has got something to say. I should just, and I don't want to start calling out people, because I was doing that for a few of the sessions, and it's a bit, it can be a bit off-putting, I know, for some people. So I'm not going to start calling out people by name. But yes, come on, contributions, cultural tourism. You've heard what people have had to say. You've heard what Sister Mandy said. You heard what Sister Asia, sorry, I keep saying Asia, Miss Crazy Sexy Cool has said. You've read the comments that Casey's made. And did anyone else make a comment? Karina, I think, also made a comment. So yes, we've heard what Atiba's had to say. What about the rest of you? Because you must be bored of my voice by now. I'm bored of my voice. I want to hear other people's voices. Come on, some other people must be from some other islands that they want to sell. You must want to be able to talk about the island that you're from, or your parents, or your grandparents, or an island that you visited. We've heard a lot about St. Lucia. We've heard a bit about Trinidad. Yes, St. Vincent as well.
I do see Michelle's video on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm trying not to call her out. She's got a beautiful smiling face. I don't want to scare people off. But now you've called her name now. Yes, yeah. Sister, you see. Don't blame Atiba though, you know. Don't blame me.
I know. Got me. I don't really have much to add. That's why I wanted to stay quiet this week and hear what everyone else had to say. But yeah, people have mentioned museums. I always think museums is a great idea. Being someone that that likes learning new things, I always like to know the origins of things. So, you know, why was this created? Why do we do this? Like sometimes it's tradition, and other times there's actually a meaning to things, and sometimes it gets lost as it's passed down generations. So I think definitely museums, because they point to things in the past, but so many of our artifacts are not in the countries of origin, are they? They're kind of here.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So museums, yeah, definitely. I don't know. Our whole culture, really, isn't it? Is very like people appropriate stuff from our culture and they make money off it, and sometimes we're not making the same money, the same recognition for things. So it will just be a question of using what people already are using, like the carnivals, for instance, like Notting Hill Carnival. Like, do people that go to it, especially the generation that's coming up now that love the carnival so much, do they actually know who created it? Like, it was created by a Trinidadian. Like, do they know that? Do you know? So maybe like say, you know, half of these things that we take for granted now, that are just part of what is seen as the English culture, where did it originate from?
Yeah,
And-
where's your heritage from? Your parents and stuff.
My parents are Guyanese.
Okay.
My parents
I
are
think
Guyanese.
you mentioned that before, didn't you, on a previous call?
I did.
So, like, is there? I mean, okay, Guyana technically isn't part of the Caribbean. Guyana is, like we said already, it's South America, and it's because it was colonized by the English. But for example, is there something that, like, when we talk about cultural tourism, are there places in Guyana, for example, that you think that if you were going to organize a tour, a cultural tourism tour of Guyana, that you might want to show people, you might want people to see, that would really typify the beauty of that country?
It's definitely the Kaichor Falls.
Okay.
It's kind of in the Guyana's. It's a strange kind of a country because I think 4/5 of it is forest.
Rainforest, isn't it? Like really thick, like fantastic rainforest.
Yeah, there's only a small part that people actually live on. The rest of it is forest, and a lot of it is you can't get there by just road. You have to like trek and all of that sort of stuff.
Which is good. So Guyana is a place to escape when all of this madness kicks off. Escape to Guyana.
It's got a big ecotourism thing, Guyana.
Right.
And you've got, in fact, there was a TV program on it a few years ago about looking at the various bioadversity stuff they've got going on for those people that are into like that sort of stuff. So they went deep into the forest, these explorers, and they were looking at the various types of animal and animals that live there and stuff, and that is only indigenous to Guyana. So like the golden frog.
The golden frog.
Yeah, the golden frog.
Do you know, people, we're all learning something. I don't know about I didn't know about the golden frog.
Yeah, because of the forest,
Yeah.
And I think there was this big thing about, because we're so close to the Amazon as well. So I even think part of the Amazon might be in a bit of Guyana. So it's about
I think it is. You're right.
So it's a bit about the preservation of that area, We're talking about, chopping down trees and whatnot, but you can't keep chopping trees. You have to kind of leave it for the environment.
Of course.
So that was a big thing in Guyana. I think it still is, but obviously it's only going to be for people that are interested in that sort of nature, that sort of stuff. Guyana as a whole, it's not really a tourist place. It tends to be people that are going back because they've got family there that visit.
But what about for us specifically? Because, there's tourism for European people and other people, for example, they are very often go to places for beaches, to lie on the beach and get a suntan and all of that stuff.
We're not known for beaches. Because the thing is with Guyana, we're not known for our beaches because Guyana is below sea level. So we don't really have beaches, because if we tried that, we just flood. We flood anyway. We flood a lot. In the rainy season. So
that's what I'm saying. So for us, for example, I know that there was there've been settlements of African people. They in Jamaica they refer to them as maroons. I don't know if it's an appropriate term, but African people who, as soon as they hit the beach, just legged it basically, and got away and got whenever once they got off the boats, they escaped. So they've got communities in Guyana. They've got communities across the Caribbean. There will be lots of things that in Guyana that maybe, in terms of cultural tourism, for us too, for us as African heritage people, that might be particularly interesting. Maybe, I know there's a Sister Michelle Yah Santois. Actually, she's Dr. Michelle Yah Santois. She's fantastic. She does a Ushun gathering every year in Merton, the river. But she also has done a lot of work, because her family come from Guyana, around a spiritual system that is practiced in Guyana that originates in Africa. So I'm just thinking, perhaps in Guyana, there's things that you could almost build a tourist package just for us, even for people of African heritage.
I don't know much about this spiritual thing of which you speak. I know there are particular ceremonies around particular events that's pretty traditional, but I'm not sure how you would package that up for tourists. For example, they were still very much connected to Africa. So they would have like one of the ceremonies that I know of is called kwekwe.
Yeah.
And that's basically, it's I suppose the closest equivalent you would get here is like a hen night then. It's a hen
Okay.
night. So they call it a kwekwe for the ladies that would gather before the wedding, before the woman was due to be married. And you'd have the one for the females, and then you'd have one for the males, which I guess here it would be the stag night.
Okay.
But yeah, it's called a kwekwe. So that's what you'd have, and you'd have all that traditional stuff around, you know, preparing the woman, making sure she's ready for her husband and all of that stuff. I don't know what the men's version is, but so you have things like that I know of. I don't know everything, but like I said, how would you package that?
I don't know. There might be, you might put something out in Guyana and say that you're going to bring some people from the Caribbean, heritage people who were, 20 people, whatever, on this tour, and they were interested in seeing culture and traditional things. And if they knew any people were getting married around that time, and you could just come along to their, maybe make a donation to their wedding or something. Because the money is always worth a lot more. 20 quid over here is worth a lot more over there. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Of course, the other thing is what Guyana's well known for, which is kind of, it's not a good thing. I don't know how many people heard of Jonestown. The Jonestown.
Oh, Jonestown, yeah.
In Guyana. So that was in the 70s, late 70s, 1978. So it's kind of a ghost town where the event happened now, but I don't know if people would see that as much of a tourist thing.
Well, I mean, it would still be, people would probably still be interested. There'll always be somebody who wants to know about it. I mean, you if you were putting together like some sort of tourism, I don't know, initiative or something, it could be a pick and mix thing. It could be that people, that there was a number of things and people could choose where they wanted to go. And so, if there was 30 people going, 10 might go off here. And then maybe there might be some people who are really into this Jonestown thing. They would go see something like that. Not everybody's going to want to see that, but yeah.
Oh, exactly. But, the other two.
I mean, the rainforest, the yellow frogs or the golden frogs. Is it?
Golden frogs, yeah.
The golden frogs. Yeah. That in itself, that's two fantastic things. The kwekwe.
We have one of the longest. Well, it was the longest at one point. It's not anymore. It might be the 4th or 5th down in the list, but one of the longest floating bridges in the world. It's the bridge floats, the Demerara Bridge. It's not much to look at though. It hasn't been well maintained. And then you've got one of the tallest wooden buildings in the world as well, which is St. George's Cathedral in the capital, Georgetown. So I suppose you could package something up like that and do a tour or something. But yeah,
there you go. You've already done a package right there. A round of applause for that. Casey, greetings, sis. Do you want to come in? Oh, I'm thinking Casey is clapping. Sorry, I keep seeing the hand coming up. I'm thinking you're putting your hand up. Sorry, clapping. Okay, right. Yes, that was wonderful. What do you think about that, Atiba? That got your brain thinking.
Yeah. I've continued taking notes every time anyone's talking, and especially there. And all we've been hearing today is just sense and beautiful sense on traveling and to the Caribbean and Africa and stuff. Like I said as well, one of the main things I realized is because we're pushing at culture and using culture and stuff. Like I said, I've basically been tracking down all the cultural or the people who deal with culture around London in terms of the councillors and stuff. So even if we can actually sort of see how we can sort of utilize that and all across the borough of London, then we can actually then push it onto the Caribbean afterwards as well. I did send an email to a few of them to join us here today, but as you can see, none of them have shown up as of yet. But now I'm starting to make contact, and now that we're using that word culture, that's what's going to really define us moving forward as a business, sort of, and using it as more of as a business model.
Good. So we're designing a business model. So we've got like 10 minutes left, people, wonderful people of the Diamond Roundtable. It's called Diamond Roundtable for a reason. So please, I'd love to hear some more contributions. Sell me a package, create a package for where you're from or where an island that you love. What things have we got in the Caribbean, in our respective islands, that we could sell as a really fantastic example of cultural tourism? Oh, come on. 10 minutes to make some more contributions. San, Trinijam. You know, I haven't had any men speak today apart from Atiba. Tyrone. I'm going to start calling the men out now. Tyrone, Trinijam, Chris, you said you're going to be free. And San Hackney. Come on, bros. Come on, man. Let's have a match. Apart from Atiba, I've heard no male contributions. Been all the sisters making the contributions. Yes, Tyrone, I saw your mic come off.
Yeah. I'm trying to get my camera.
Cool. We'll just give Tyrone a minute while he gets his camera and his mic on, hopefully.
Saying I thought my mic's been on. Basically.
Yes, greetings, welcome.
Hi, how's everyone doing? Everyone good?
Yeah, all good.
Good. Yeah, so I came into the conversation quite late, so I don't really know what has been going on. But basically, based on what I heard, I like I said before, I work in the media industry, so my thing is mainly about visuals and what people can see. And I think the difference between someone thinking about an idea and someone going for the idea is when they have a visual representation, I believe. Like when they got something that they can see, so they can see it to be realistic. So I think when we were talking about the wedding and different things that happen, it'd be good to have like maybe like a channel or something that visually shows these things, you know? So maybe if we were to make contact with someone that lived over there, a media company that was actually filming a wedding or one of the ceremonies that we were talking about.
Right, to get some actual raw footage.
Like real footage.
Yeah.
A website or onto a YouTube channel that could be strictly for encouraging people to go out and see it for themselves, you know? Because that's the way the world's going now. Everything's quite digital. And if people can visually see it, then they might be more inclined to sort of wanting to take that step and go and get involved personally. And then on the other aspects, I really connect with the idea of not knowing our history as Black people in general. I feel that I had a conversation a while back with some people that were from a different country. They were still Black, they were South Africans, but they were saying that Black people are sort of like not where they should be in society. And my argument was that, well, Black people have only been able to have a strong foothold within society recently. And then beyond that, we don't even know our history. So I think if there was a little bit more of a, you know, we know that we've done certain things like the light bulb and stuff, but no, I just don't feel like it's promoted enough. I don't feel like that aspect of the greatness that we provide is highlighted. And I don't feel that Black people in general get the respect that they deserve, because the only thing we're remembered by is slavery. And I would just like that element to sort of be disrupted a little bit, and more things that we do for the world, for the economy, you know, that type of stuff. I think that level of education needs to be brought out. I don't know how or if that would have any impact on what we're doing, but I do believe that we don't know truly where we come from.
Yep, that's all very true. I mean, part of the cultural aspect of, or the objective of cultural tourism is about learning, as I was saying and stressing. I had Sister Mandy making the comments about and talking about St. Lucia and some of the things that she shared with us. And, you know, that is part of it. For example, in you know, you're right, enslavement is not our history. There was all the prehistory, but I think that we can certainly as well, from if we are expanding and looking at the African continent as well. There's so much to learn from visiting these places and learning about our history. And like even like the language, like the words, I mean, like Sister Michelle just said kwekwe, that's obviously an African word.
Mm.
You know, and you can see the similarities with other African languages. So all of these things. So the cultural tourism can also be a vehicle for us to learn about our history as well. And learning about your history means having more knowledge of your identity and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's all really important. Yes. Does anybody else want to add to what our brother here, Tyrone, has said about making your dreams, as it were, reality through making it visual? You know, being able to actually see what you're trying to create. We haven't got long left now, so if you chip in, you've only got like about 4 minutes, and probably like it will be like 2 minutes. So now is a good time to chip in. Sister Ayana.
Hello, how are you? Good?
Greetings, sis.
I'm finally ready to make a contribution. My apologies, I've been eating. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ayana. I work with the St. Lucia Tourism Authority. I did not want to bombard you with too much information on St. Lucia because Mandy had already done that. So I'm not expanding on the last point. I'm just basically talking about the most beautiful island in the Caribbean. With regard to the cultural tours that you guys were talking about, there is just one that Mandy did not mention. So we have something in St. Lucia called the Creole Heritage Month. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with that. It happens in October. I believe Dominica has the Creole Heritage Month as well. It's a month long of festivities where we just celebrate our Creole culture. As many of you may know, most of the countries in the Caribbean were colonized by the French at one point. So St. Lucia was fought over by the British and the French. So there was a war which went on for 14. Well, there were 14 wars. So we were 7 times British and 7 times French. For that, most of the communities in St. Lucia have Creole names. And on island, we still speak a French-based Creole, which is a patois. We speak the same that same version of French as Dominica. So in October, you can learn how our ancestors made food, the different things that they did, the different clothes that they wore, how their children played, the different games that they played. It's just a month long of festivities and activities, and that is what we're doing at the St. Lucia Tourism Authority for October. October is one of our low season months, so we are actually trying to have people within our diaspora and the regional diaspora as well visit St. Lucia during this month. Although we do have quite a few tourists visiting St. Lucia, we don't have the numbers that we could accommodate. So we are looking within the Caribbean region, or people like yourselves with a Caribbean heritage or Caribbean background to visit St. Lucia to just experience the culture. Right now, I would say that the Creole Heritage Month in Dominica is a lot bigger than that of St. Lucia. I did not want to say that, but it is. And St. Lucia is growing, but one of the...
But you could do both, couldn't you? I mean, is it the same month or is it a different month?
It is the same month. So you
can
do
both. You can do both and get to see 2 islands for on one trip.
Yes, so yeah. I guess so. Good connectivity within the region as well. So there is a ferry, I believe, to Martinique and then another flight to Dominica, but it's a really it's an experience. It's something that's very different from the life that we live, here in the UK. It's you get to experience so much, you get to hear so much, you get to see of how people used to live before. And it is really something, you really get in touch with that whole Creole of what we seem to have forgotten before. But it is really something. It is something to treasure, it's something to teach our younger generation. So I would highly advise, not just as the tourism authority, but as a St. Lucian and as someone from the Caribbean, I would highly recommend visiting St. Lucia and Dominica within that period.
Wow, that sounds brilliant. And I think that the Creole is a really important thing because, you know, interestingly, like it was spoken in Trinidad at one point. It was spoken in many islands now. I think in Grenada as well. There are places where it's been completely lost, the French Creole, but it was spoken there too at one point. So yeah.
Places, quite a few small groups of people in Trinidad still speak it. In St. Vincent and Grenada, they still use some words. So sometimes
we use a lot of words still in Trinidad, yeah. And my grandmother always told me that her mother spoke it, but that would have been my great grand, you know, that was the 1800s, so it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was, but I still believe there are a few people, because sometimes I would say something and some Trinidadians and Grenadians would understand some of the words.
Yes, so, yeah. I had a St. Lucian ex, actually. I had a lot of Creole spoken in my house. So yeah, I do recognize, definitely know that there's some connection there again with the language. But yeah, that's a wonderful example, sister. And that is exactly what we're talking about. The things that we can use to create our own packages for tourism that's based on culture and really giving us a chance to immerse ourselves in the cultures of the Caribbean, which are diverse and wonderful and beautiful. And, you know, you can't go wrong with it.
Across the Caribbean, if you do some research about the Caribbean, across the Caribbean, we do have tours that are focused on the culture. And in addition to what we have mentioned, there are hundreds of cultural tours across the Caribbean. This one that I mentioned in St. Lucia is just one. There would be, I would say, about 40-something cultural tours in St. Lucia alone. St. Lucia is a very small island, 238 square miles, one of the smallest in the Caribbean. So across the Caribbean, there are so many cultural tours. It's just about doing the research. We don't even have to go that far to do the research. There are the websites for the different tourism authorities. You can just go on there, and there are a number of them. I can think of a few other, especially, I think when you think of an island like Dominica, I don't know why I'm mentioning Dominica again, but they're really in touch with their culture and their Creole heritage. So in terms of cultural tours, Dominica has quite a few. St. Lucia has a lot, but I think Dominica has quite a few. St. Kitts has quite a few as well.
What about cultural tours because a couple of episodes ago we were talking about, you know, because again, we're still talking about empowerment and the idea that maybe we could be doing something that was kind of loosely based on Airbnb, but where, you know, people stayed with local people. So the money goes directly, it's a circular economy and it goes straight to the people. Are you aware of those sorts of kind of programs or initiatives?
Again, I do not want to bombard with too much St. Lucia information, but then I'm from the Tourism Authority.
Yeah, what can you do exactly?
So we have actually developed a program called Collection des Pépites. It actually tries to highlight or tries to attract people to our smaller properties on island, which is a small inns, a small B&B, smaller property, 35 rooms, 35 or less. If you do go into, well, we have a section on our website for that. So you can actually go and book an Airbnb or a hut in a community called Labri. There you can live with the locals and experience things locally. We actually encourage people from the regional that is the Caribbean to actually book that way. It's a lot cheaper and you get to experience the local culture a lot more. That's it. I will stop today. Next week, Wednesday, I'll give you another St. Lucia lesson.
Thank you so much, sister. Wonderful. That's absolutely perfect. And yeah, we're now 4 minutes over. So I want to hand over to Atiba, and I want to thank all of you for your participation and also for your contributions, your wonderful ideas, your sharing of knowledge. I've learned so much today. And yeah, Atiba, my brother.
Yes, one love. Thank you very much, everyone that's come on, everyone that's contributed, everyone that's listened in. This is beautiful. We're really bringing it all together, as you can hear. we've gone from so much just being here, there, and everywhere, and now we're just defining it even more. And now we're coming up and speaking about cultural tours. So yeah, what's it called? Let's keep building. Obviously, you've taken. I'm gonna put the YouTube link up in the WhatsApp groups and things like that. I'll send it out to everybody. Yeah, build off the back of it, and I'll see you all again next week. One love.
Yes.
Have a blessed week, people.
Have a blessed week.
That's
Peace.